Hi there, thanks for coming. This is a very difficult subject to talk about. Not so much that it's difficult to say the words, but it's difficult emotionally. At least it is for me. The title is Doing God's Work and the unintended consequences that come from that. So this is always a problem. If you take the mantra, the English mantra that Swami Shivananda has, which is do good, be good, love, serve, meditate, realize. Doing good and being good is the primary directive for self-realization. When you look at uh, the 8 limbs of the yoga, Ashtanga yoga means 8 limbs. The first two are the yamas and the niyamas. And these may not seem to be that important, but they're extremely important. They're the foundation on which you build everything else. If you don't have the idea of doing good and being good, you're sure to have problems in your spiritual development. Absolutely. Even when you have those, you have problems. Let me give you some examples from my own life, just so people can rest easy. When I was 5, my mother told me that we should always be like Jesus, try to make peace. So I was going to kindergarten, and 2 kids started fighting. Well, that day I didn't do anything, but I went home and I talked to my mom, and I said, "Well, Mom, what should I do in that case?" She said, "You should be like Jesus, and you should try and be a peacemaker." I said, "Oh, okay, I can do that." To myself, I didn't say it to her. So the next day, when those 2 kids got into it again, and they were struggling and wrestling back and forth, I went up to them and I said, "Hey, you shouldn't fight." Well, they weren't going to have any of that. So what they did is they broke up, and they grabbed me. One from behind and held my arms. The other one went and got a wooden pencil box and started beating me over the head. Wow. There's always unintended consequences in doing God's work. And I still didn't learn that lesson. You may have heard me talk about my brother who was a schizophrenic and how much I admired him. I thought what a great talent he had. So you can imagine she sees somebody fall from a high pinnacle. And then what was worse, when I tried to help him, he refused to help. I still tried to help him, but that didn't work. Even when I tried to help him, he refused to have help. So when you have to be very sophisticated in doing your good, is what I learned. I'm seeing this every day, even. Now, Mother Teresa, some of you may have heard of her. Someone complained to her about they were doing good and people took advantage of them. You know what she said? She didn't deny it. She said, yes, that happens. People take advantage of you when you're doing good. You know what she said next? She said, do good anyway. Why am I bringing this subject up now? Because the times that are coming are going to try men's souls. And you're going to see people walking off a cliff like lemmings. And it's really going to bother you because you think you should help them. How could this be God's will? But one of the things, if you look at the story in Revelation, what it says is a great deal of people are going to be killed. And I know that doesn't seem like a big deal. But how many of you here have heard of the Black Plague in Europe? It sounds terrible, doesn't it? Even from 700 years ago. How could God have allowed that? Don't have to go back that far. Look at the Holocaust. The Germans killed almost 6 million Jews, but they killed a whole lot of other people as well. Priests, when they could get them in their net. So, and I have seen recently people come up against their karma. You see, one of the things that Swami Satchidananda, my guru, said, you can always see more. You can never see less. Well, that doesn't sound like it's really that big a deal. But he also said, in spirituality, don't worry about the cities, the powers. Learn to walk on your 2 feet before you fly. And why did you say that? Because we come back again to doing good and being good. God always looks at your intention. So in your spiritual growth, you're always going to make mistakes. That's the nature of growth. You make mistakes. It's not the big a deal to make a mistake. The big deal is to admit it, reframe, recast, and go forward. But one of the things that come up when you have the ability to see the future is that you will mistake. Well, this is one of the problems with the unintended consequences is that everything seems to be now. So if you look back, you'll see I've made predictions that haven't come true yet. And some of them might not, because people will have changed their behavior. If you look in the Bible, there are prophecies that are cast as if you don't do, this will happen to you. And what you see when these prophets made these statements, people didn't do, or they did to change their behavior for the better, and they were successful. Okay, so you're looking at, you develop the ability to see the future. Let me ask you, what do you do if you see that the future is going to be something you don't like? Do you let God do it? Do you try and interfere? Do you sacrifice yourself so somebody else could live? And these are all, and there's no easy answer. I remember in a retreat, Swami Satchidananda used to answer questions, written questions, and someone had written in, what do you do with somebody that's a crazy person? Do you shoot them? So he looked at that, he read in the little card, and he thought about it for 30 seconds. It's a long time. And what he said was, if somebody broke into this church, it was in a church up in a retreat up in Monticello, and they had a gun, and they were going to shoot the people here. And if I had a gun and there was nothing else I could do, I would shoot him. Believe it or not, this is the same response that I had to learn about my brother and his schizophrenia. What it turned out was I was interfering with God's plan for him. And I only knew it in retrospect. It was only after he'd been dead for a number of years that I realized that my life got worse whenever I tried to help him. When I stepped back and didn't and just ignored it, my life got better. You think I would have learned, but sometimes these lessons are hard. So one of the things that you always have to do, what is God's will? What is the overarching will? What is the specific? You know, there's a story in the Mahabharata where Krishna goes with the Yadavas and the Pandavas and the Kauravas to Kurukshetra. This is during happier times, before the Battle of Kurukshetra. And Krishna knew this was going to be the battlefield in which many of these people were going to die. So he is by himself, and Balaram, his brother, came up to him and said, "You shouldn't dwell on what's to come. Come and be happy for the moment in what's here." And Krishna took that advice. And that's still good advice. Remember, what is important is your relationship to God and what you should be doing at the present moment. Are you making yourself happier? Are you making other people happy around you? Are you going towards that state of self-realization? The first rule of Tantra is be happier the next instant. I'd like to thank you for spending the time to listen. And I encourage you to do good, be good, love, serve, meditate, realize. Thank you.